Did you see this parallel of Xal'atath and Arator? Their light turns into wrath and starts burning them, and everything turns to ashes. We now know that Xal'atath used to be a light user in the ancient past, but the entire cinematic might be something entirely different. Based on the new still from the website, we can see that maybe it wasn't Xal'atath being converted from the light into the void. Instead, the creator is coming from her, and it looks like her light might have burned everyone around her, which might have caused the transformation. Right now, Zelta is the only leader of the void, the mortal enemy of the light, and she is someone that used to be on the completely opposite side. She knows the light inside and out. But what really happened back there? Why did she turn to the void? And what do we know about Xal'atath's light past? So check this out, guys. You can literally talk with Azeroth's world soul and ask what is really going on. So far, I've created everyone from Sargeras to Demantius to Anduin, and they're all in my contact list, and I can ask them whatever I want. Coolest thing, you can make your own character, just write a backstory, customize him. There's so many options. You can do so much completely free, but you can also use my code Doron66 to get a lot of really cool perks. So make sure to click the link in the description below and check out PolyBuzz. So if you guys watched my previous video, I've talked about this when the cinematic of Xal'atath was first released, that she was somehow involved with the light. My initial speculation was that she was a priestess that felt abandoned by the light and ultimately decided to turn to the void. The new cinematic and her new words from the official Midnight release cinematic with Arator seem to kind of play into this, but at a little bit of a different angle. I mean, the cinematic itself, the original cinematic, was a little cryptic of Xal'atath when she shows her world's fate to the ethereal leader. Now, the lore that we know for certain is that this happened over 100,000 years ago, which is a crazy long time. I mean, like at least 4 times as long as the entire Argus ordeal with the Draenei, but probably even longer than that. Like, we know the destruction of Kadesh happened 100,000 years ago. That is when Zelta was already a very notable servant of Demantius, and that is when she betrayed him, but her planet was destroyed long before that, so timing-wise, I mean, anything from like 100,000 years to who knows how long. Now, this lore we actually knew from the War Within, only now did we actually see that in cinematic form. We saw what Zelta looked like back in her mortal form, and the cinematic hinted that she was a priestess of the light or some sort of a servant of the light. We have seen this in the cinematic from her eyes that are light colored, just like the Radiant, from the paint around her eyes, around her face, which is obviously the light, and also from the fact that she's wearing a light servant type robe with like this giant sun in the middle around her neck in this form of a giant necklace. She seems to be desperate. I mean, we see her eyes turn from the light inside into the void, and then her mortal form turns to ash. This, by the time of the expansion, could be interpreted in multiple ways, but did you actually notice that what just happened, a parallel that Blizzard did with this cinematic and the release of Midnight cinematic with Arator? It's literally the exact same thing. I mean, Zelta seems to be doing the kind of regular cheesy villain dialogue, but she seems to really be speaking from experience, and then the cinematic actually ends in the exact same pose that Xal'atath's cinematic ended with. Desperate light user, burned by the light with ashes all around him. She tells him, the light will betray you. In your darkest moment when you need it most, the light will turn to wrath and all you will be left with is ashes. As I said, she really seems to be speaking from the heart here, and Arator seems to see the wrath side of the light as well. It starts burning him directly and he's trying to put out the fire. This type of angle kinda changes the entire narrative of the previous Zelta cinematic and her light past. We actually knew Zelta had some involvement with the light for the past 10 years. I mean, if you've seen the speculation, a lot of people thought she was a Naru. That is because she commented about the light quite a bit. I mean, a suspicious amount of times. She particularly likes taunting Illyria, who has seen both sides as well. And also, there was a quote where she says the Naru are the long-lost brethren that lost their way. I mean, keep in mind, the timeline here, Zelta is so insanely old, like 5 times older than the oldest character we know, and really could be as old as a Naru. Like literally some of her brethren might have become Naru in who knows how long of a past. Now, the initial impression from the cinematic was that Zelda's world was invaded by Demantius, the light proved to be useless against the void, and she was subsequently turned into a void being. It couldn't save her, and then her mortal form turned to ash. However, based on this new info, it might be something entirely different. See, other than the cinematic, Blizzard released a still image on their website of Xal'atath's old form, and this still tells a little bit of a different story. I mean, there seems to be a crater coming out from Xal'atath, and everything around her has turned to ash. I'm talking, it might not be the void that destroyed everything and then extinguished her light, but maybe it was her light that turned to rat that burned everything around her, and this now makes complete sense based on what she told Arator. I mean, she said, and I quote, "Your light will betray you in your darkest moment. When you need it most, your light will turn to rat, and all you'll be left with is ashes." As I said, I mean, it really seems to be like she's speaking from experience here. Now, we do see a giant void whale above her in the image. Maybe the context is different. It could be possible that her light burned everyone around her, which completely broke her and got her to turn into the void, like someone that was disillusioned with the light. I'm talking just for the sake of talking here, but maybe someone else was invading her planet, maybe the Titans, maybe the demons, and the light couldn't save her despite her believing that it could. However, it could also be the void invasion. I mean, we can't really discount it. I mean, the later removed text from 11.2 PTR did state that Dimensius himself invaded Xal'atath's world, and that is when she joined him, whether willingly or not. I'm guessing some type of an Ashara scenario joining the old gods. I'm guessing if this was indeed a void invasion, it just showed her how much more potent the void is. Like, the light ended up not helping her, but instead burning those she loved, and that is when she started hating it. It does actually check out with the new Arator cinematic. I mean, Arator is battling the void invasion, he's getting desperate in the battle, he unleashes his light rage, which burns him and destroys the entire surrounding elven area. So it's like one of those, this can work, but at what cost? It can destroy the enemy, but it can also destroy those that you love at the same time. I'm guessing, based on the cinematic, this is also what happened to Xal'atath back in the day. Despite me personally not being a huge fan of Blizzard completely rewriting Arator and pretending like he's not a completely grown man already, the writing for Xal'atath does actually seem very interesting. I mean, this does give her a really interesting perspective, a backstory. As we know, right now she's the true leader of the Void, as the Void Lords don't exist anymore, and the Light, as you may know, is the true mortal enemy of the Void. It's interesting that the person currently leading the battle, like the final battle against the Light, is a person that once followed the Light but turned to the other side. Like, she knows it from the inside out, as she once believed in it as well. Now, whether she was a ruler of the planet, just like a regular user, or something else, we can't really know yet, we can only speculate. However, as you can see from Midnight, right now, that kind of seems to be the entire theme of the expansion. It's turning both the Void and the Light into so many shades of grey. Like, the Light can be good, but it can also be really bad. We've seen so many examples so far with how they're treating people of Qualtalas, and also the constant hints that Aurelian is going to turn into a villain, like the new cinematic where he goes crazy over the troll. At the same time, the Void can be used with knowledge for good, but it is mostly evil. Illyria and Arator are kind of in the middle of both, and they're kind of at the center of the expansion as well. So this entire duality is really the center of Midnight, and Xal'atath is literally someone that already went through that, but decided to pick the Void. I think it will be really interesting to see how Blizzard explains her transformation, what she was like in the past, what the planet was like, and what really happened back there, back in the day. Thanks for watching, and check out my Arator's writing is really weird by clicking on the screen, and subscribe to my brand new Witcher lore channel that I just opened by clicking on the screen as well. See you next time!